everyone. Well, I get to stand between lunch, so I won't starve you to death. So bear with me. All right, thank you, the organizers, for making such a wonderful conference, and thank you to everyone who made it here today. My name is John Ombagi. That was an awesome introduction. Well, I'll just do a brief again, then we can get to the gist that's waiting us here. I'm John Ombagi. I'm the head of cybersecurity operations in Africa at Plena Solutions. And I've had over a decade experience in cybersecurity. And I'm also glad to be part of the development of cybersecurity here in Africa. In many aspects, as an advisor, as an expert, as a trainer, as well as being able to come up with programs. In my previous experiences, I've been able to help both private and government institutions to strengthen their cybersecurity infrastructure, and still currently active in coming up with programs that help different sectors as well as academia in learning today's modern attacks. That said, I'd also like to introduce Plena, which is the company that I work for, and just give a brief of what we do. So Plena is an Israeli-based cybersecurity solution, or rather cybersecurity company that offers solution that meets the unique needs that we're facing locally. We do have a local presence in Nairobi. Our offices are at the heart of the CBD, and primarily we address the unique challenges that we're facing locally by tapping into the most cutting-edge in-breed cybersecurity solution from Israel and learning the unique, or rather coupling with the understanding of the unique challenges that we're facing locally here. That said, I'll be talking about cyber threat intelligence, and I'd like to draw your attention. So assume you're a CISO, or in charge of an application, or in charge of a system, and you get a call, maybe over a weekend. Your systems have been hacked, and even worse, this has been discovered over social media. And the buzz is going on, and you're trying to find out what to do. So this has happened before, so it's not like a random theory. So for instance, a report by itnewsafrica.com mentioned that about 47% has been seen as an increase in cybersecurity attacks. And this is a period of 1 year. The study was done April last year and compared with the results in this year in April. A whooping 47% has been seen as what companies are facing as attacks. Hackers in Uganda, this again, not far-fetched, about 4 or 5 months ago, sold about $4 million. That's not enough. We still see under stock exchange in Uganda, hackers were able to infiltrate the network. Up to date from the reports we're reading, they couldn't ascertain for how long the attackers spent within their networks. So that's still questionable. So we don't know if it's a month, a week, or a year. But what happened, whatever was leaked out, had a devastating impact to the operation. What I mean is, there were rumors that it affected how the trading was going on because personal information were leaked of their private investors as well as people doing the trading. The largest supermarkets in South Africa, ShopRite, again, was hit with a ransomware with a chance of about, let's say, 40 or 50 across different cities. The operations were put at hold. They couldn't do their normal operation. Well, I'm here not bearing bad news. What I want us to kind of shift is making us not victim, or rather a case study. So, case of TransUnion, if you just focus a little bit on it because we want to look at this kind of attacks that are happening. TransUnion attack happened early this year, and there were a couple of interesting things to pick from the attack. One is the nature of the attack itself. The attackers were allegedly a Brazilian hacking group called NautisecTU, and what they were able to do were they broke into TransUnion servers using a password that was leaked, stole data, and were demanded about $15 million. So the data that they were able to collect was about 4 GB, but it had 54 million records of the different banks that they're servicing because they helped them to make decisions on the credit scores for different clients that they have. The impact that this had over TransUnion is the fact that it had a reputation damage. It affected their business disruption, or rather it caused business disruption, affected how the business operates, and that the regulators involved. Now, why this attack successful? Well, we had a lot of speakers here from the morning. They talk about how this threat landscape is changing, and of course it's true. And not only that, we have defenses that we're putting in place. We invest so much in protecting our system. So why are these attacks successful? Well, there's so many reasons, but we can't cover everything. But the basic, thing where we can start is what one of the panelists mentioned. Our systems, the way they're designed and protection in mind, is from a basic network setup. We have a switch, we have a firewall, we have a router, different departments, and basically that's the foundation of every network that we have. And this is what kind of forms what the defenses that we have today. You talk about a firewall, IPS, IDS, it's a basic perimeter. Now, with these basic perimeters, they're not able to catch up with the kind of attacks that we're seeing today. The attacks are getting sophisticated, attackers are getting smarter, and the attacks are also getting creative. Yet the defenses that we had, not saying they're not capable of defending us, but keeping up with the changes that happen in the industry, a little bit kind of challenging for us. So what is this ever-changing threat landscape that you're talking about? There's so many factors to put into mind, but one, I'll just do a summary and see if we can all share some few things. Before going to this slide, we all know the impact COVID had to different businesses. Some of the panelists have explained this as well. The design that we had and the impact that COVID had over us, people have to work from home. We had to move to cloud solutions and depend on others, or rather integrate other solutions that we never kind of factored in when we started off. Now, simple example, people working from home, they need to access critical infrastructure within your business so that they can do what is necessary for them to do their business. And this introduced a different challenge to every business, but yet it had one thing in common. We didn't prepare for these changes, and it happened abruptly. That said, there's an attack surface expanding, and by this what I mean is businesses, they keep on getting new technology, they keep on investing in new cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions, but yet keeping up with what we're exposing to the internet, exposing to the attacker, is a little bit challenging for us. We have well-motivated attackers. Today, the attackers that we're facing, or rather the attacks that we're facing today, they're not what we saw 10 years ago. The attackers were purely motivated by breaking into a system, they're kind of, or rather were being led by their ego. Today, we have people who are motivated by money. They see the value with the data that you hold. They see the value of, or rather, what ways they can monetize these attacks. Then the attacks also getting sophisticated and creative. We have BEC kind of attacks. We have bring your own device, people coming with their own devices at work, and as much as having all the perimeter security defenses in place, these are all channels for attacks to come through. Now, with that said, we still have a challenge, so how do we address it? Here the challenge we know is we have attacks keep on coming up, and they're getting more creative, more advanced, yet the defenses are more or less the same. And ideally, the network protection that we have are from the known threats that we're aware of. So we put a firewall, we know we would just want the traffic that we want. We put, let's say, identity control management system. We want the right people to access what's supposed to be accessed at that level. But what about the unknown threats? We keep on preparing for the threats that we know, but what's challenging us is the unknown threats that are out there, and they are related to our industry. So cyber threat intelligence is what can help us adapt to this evolving threat landscape and keep us abreast. Cyber threat intelligence provides the capability for us to be able to bridge from these unknown threats, making them to a state that they're known, and we prepare and anticipate for them. We move from a change, or rather we move from a stage where it's no longer a perceived threat, but it's a known threat, and we know what the attackers are preparing for, and we know what are the low-hanging fruits within our infrastructure, within our business. And we act before they act. So that's what cyber threat intelligence is about. So in summary, it bridges us from the unknown unknowns to a state where they are knowns. Now, how do we compare cyber threat intelligence to today's business? And I like what one of the panelists again said. Having the best of the cybersecurity solution, and you don't have ways to integrate it with whatever you have today, have it within your processes, have the people adapt to it, is as good as having nothing. And I totally agree. So here's a quick example of how to integrate cyber threat intelligence. The good news is cyber threat intelligence tools and solutions should not come to replace whatever you have as an investor in cybersecurity. Rather, it's a complementary service, and it provides an opportunity for you to look at what's happening within your industry, what's happening within your business environment, and augment with what is internally available, and adjust as things change, so that you can prepare for attacks and most probably be able to act before the attackers act. So here's a quick, simple framework to approach cyber threat intelligence. There's so many fields out there, and being an expert in cyber threat intelligence and developing SOC for governments in Africa and also local businesses here, the big challenge I know is when you talk about cyber threat feeds, people perceive it as noise because you get a lot of feeds which are not relatable to your business. They're not really important to what you do. So instead of adding a level of success, it becomes another layer of challenge for your analyst. But with the right proper data that is relatable to your business, relatable to what you do, relatable to your industry, this can drastically improve your cybersecurity. Now, looking at what this entails, we observe the external environment, look at what parameters to include in your observation, or rather in the data that you collect. This can be leaked emails, it can be the systems that are out there, what the attackers are discussing about low-hanging, let's say, system within your industry. And then when something is collected as, let's say, a probable interest to your business, we're able to share this. Oops, I'm losing the slide. So we're able to share this with the system, or rather with the business that is affected. Then internally you have a meeting where you orient, you talk about, do we need to change anything in the organization culture? Do we need to have a crisis meeting? Do we need to maybe change the way some systems are faced, or what the public is facing, or other systems that are facing the public? What needs to be changed? Then a decision has to be made. The CISO and the right team sit down, make a decision, say, hey, we need to change this, we need to fix this, or somebody needs to change their password. Then the action has to be done, and we do this in a loop. It's not a linear process, but rather iterative. But the point here is you're able to act faster than the attackers. So as I come to a close, I like to draw your attention to cyber threat intelligence. Businesses are getting more exposed, and attacks are also getting more sophisticated. And this is becoming a little bit challenge for everyone out there. No business is able to keep up with this, with the pace of how attackers are getting creative. The attackers themselves share information. They're able to act, with whatever little they have. They share information. They're creative. They're able to build things which bypass things that we put trust and investment. Cyber threat intelligence is what bridges us between what the attackers are able to do in a very fast manner and what the defenders are able to act in with the right information. I'm inviting you to come and look at the opportunities and benefits that cyber threat intelligence provides to all of us. We at Plena Solution offer you the benefits of cyber threat intelligence. We talked about how best to implement them. And not only that, we look at the unique challenges that you're facing and address them. Instead of importing a solution and putting it on the shelf for you, we look at the unique challenges that you're facing and how best this can address these challenges. I think I have a few minutes if I'll be allowed for 2 or 3 questions. I'll be more than happy. But that said, you're still welcome for more discussion. Let's talk about cyber threat intelligence, solutions that we offer. We have a booth in the other room, And I'll be more than happy to talk about the right solution that you need. And when we talk about cyber threat intelligence, not just random feeds, but things that really relate with your business and as well as your infrastructure and what really fits your needs. Thank you very much.
And of course, we are giving a chance to only 2 questions. 2 questions only. I wish I was a chameleon. Do we have one? Yes, you can run there.
All right, if you have more than 2, we're still here today and tomorrow, so we can have the conversation in our booth and discuss more about
because we'll still network.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
Thank you. Daniel Mwangi. Thank you for the nice presentation and the insights you're giving us. My question is basically about the cyber threat intelligence. It's all about sharing. So I know we have a challenge there because especially on the various industries, you don't want to expose what you're facing to the people who you are in the same business line, because most people say that maybe it's the competitor who is initiating this. So I don't know what we can do around that, the sharing, because that is one key challenge that we have in cybersecurity. If I get hit today, I don't want it to get known. Yeah, I want to keep it in undercover and then sort my own issues. But how can we ensure that now we have a platform that people are sharing that information so that all of us can benefit? I know it's easier for you from an integrator and a solutions provider point of view, and maybe you can advise on how businesses can work. Thank you.
That's a good question. So there are 2 parts to that question, and I'd like to break it into 2. So one part is how do we get this information, and how do we kind of compel other people to share this? So there are 2 aspects to look at this. So I'll go back a little bit to the case study I've given you, TransUnion, for instance. When the attack happened, allegedly it was a reused password, and when the attack happened, the server that was accessed, a password was used, and data was exfiltrated, and data had to be sold, let's say in a dark web. So some of the solutions that we have don't really access some parts of the website. They don't access the, let's say, attackers' market. They don't access other deep part of the web where attackers sit down, discuss, and decide who to sell this information. Another aspect to this modern attacks that we're facing, they're not like the old attacks where people are just motivated by having the fun of breaking system. It's a whole crime syndicate. And what I'll tell you, and maybe I'll shock you, is the people who break in sometimes don't even know where the password came from. There's a whole market for people selling this information. You'll go to the dark web, you want to access Bank XYZ in Kenya, you start searching. If there's anybody who has access, it comes through malware. People have access to these systems long before you know, and they're selling it. So people who have ransomware, they go sell this access, then they use the ransomware. Because it kind of explains the question I was asking, why are the attacks successful? You have the firewall, you have the next-gen solution you can talk about, but there's no silver bullet when it comes to protecting your systems. So one of the ways we enable you to stay ahead of the curve is by looking at these sources, checking where the attackers are getting all this information or selling and exchanging. They use bitcoins and all manner of things just to hide from the normal eyes. People surfeit the net. So through a proper cyber threat intelligence, and again, not noise, if it's company XYZ, we tell you company XYZ, we've seen 4 or 5 accounts that attackers are talking about. They're willing to sell it for $5, $10, and it's your bank. You need to do something about it. So that's one way. The other aspect you're talking about, I think, comes more from an awareness, industry awareness, and people in charge of making frameworks to enhance collaboration. So I think that's another aspect of cyber threat intelligence. For instance, we have the KESAT, where people can sit down and say, hey, we have the banking industry. It's not a good idea if one bank gets hit with the same nature of the attack, then tomorrow another bank is hit with the same nature of attack. And then they start discussing ways to share information. Well, that's still a challenge. There's no easy way to compel people, and especially people in the industry who are competing, to start sharing this information. But it can start with simple ways, like general kind of cases where they can start sharing, and also putting them in private spaces where they can share freely without the eyes of the regulator being in charge of these platforms. I hope I've answered your question quite well. I know we can discuss more about this.
Yes.
Please visit us in the next room after lunch. We can talk more about this.
All right, thank you so much. A round of applause for Mr. John.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Simufanye ile kitu. All right.
1 GB versus 3 GB.
Asante.
Thank you too.